Hey fellow writers, this is Rich Blazevich from Self-Publishing Fastlane. In this video, I'm going to talk about where you should publish your book if you're wanting to self-publish. If you want to see more videos like this, remember to hit the subscribe button. And if you stick around until the end of this video, I'll tell you how to get useful stuff off of my website. So let's jump in. Specifically, what I'll cover in this video is what are the top 7 places to self-publish your book. I'm also going to cover the pros and cons of each of those 7. And I'll give you a royalty comparison. So I'll show you for some of the books that I've published, how much money do I make on each of those self-publishing platforms. Let's jump right in. I'm going to get straight to the point with the top 7 list. Number 1, as you might expect, is Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing. Number 2 might be a surprise. It's Google Play Books, and I'll explain why here in just a minute. Number 3, Barnes & Noble Press. Number 4, Apple Books. And number 5 is Kobo. The next 2 are platforms that you might have expected higher on the list, and those 2 are Draft2Digital and IngramSpark. When you look at this list, what you might notice is the first 5 are all retailer platforms, and the second 2 are aggregator platforms. I'll go into a little more detail on what that means, but before I do want to mention a few honorable mentions. So 3 places that almost made the list, but not quite, were PublishDrive, Smashwords, and Lulu, which are also great sites. They just weren't in the top 7. So before I get started, let me explain the differences between the retailer sites that are on the left side of the screen and the aggregator sites in the middle of the screen. If your goal is to get your book to readers, then there are 2 ways you can do that. The first way is you can go directly to a retailer, a site like Amazon, and you can send your book to Amazon. They will put it on their site and make it available directly for readers. Another option you have is to go through an aggregator, and an aggregator simply aggregates retailers. So you send your book to the aggregator then makes your book available to retailers, and those retailers make the book available to readers. And this is important because if you go directly to the retailer, you'll make a higher royalty rate. And that's because you're not also paying the aggregators distribution fees. So I recommend you start by going to the retailer sites first, establish your distribution on those sites, and then use aggregators to fill in places that those retailers aren't currently accessing. So I'm going to show you why this is important when we get near the end of the video, because I'll show you the difference in the royalty amount you'll make when you go through a retailer versus an aggregator. But let's jump right into the list of the top 7. Number 1 on this list is no surprise. It's Amazon's Kindle Direct Publishing, also known as KDP. And when you talk to most successful self-published authors, they will say KDP is the best place to start. And there's a whole list of pros and a very, very small list of cons. So let's look at some of the pros with publishing on KDP. Amazon has the biggest customer base of any bookseller. So if you publish on KDP, you will have access to the biggest customer base. You will also have a very user-friendly interface. KDP makes it so easy to upload your book, make changes, make updates, and get your book out into the market. They also have very good customer service. Anytime I've had an issue, anytime I've had a question, I just send them a message or I give them a call and I'm able to get the issues resolved very quickly. They also let you publish in ebook and paperback. A lot of the ones on this list that I'm going to show you are ebook only. Amazon does make paperback available for publication. It is free to publish on KDP. And then finally, their royalties are generous. They offer 70% royalties on ebooks and 60% royalties on paperback. Now, there are some fees that are involved. So you don't get 60% of the retail sales price. You get 60% of the retail sales price less the printing cost. So I'll go into that on the back end of this video. The list of cons for KDP is pretty short. I only came up with 2 items that I felt like were a disadvantage of self-publishing on KDP. And the first one is if you opt into their Kindle Select program, that means you can't distribute your ebook anywhere other than to Amazon. Now, Kindle Select is optional. You don't have to opt into it. What it gives you is access to people who are part of the Kindle Unlimited program, which means they have a subscription service with Amazon and they can read ebooks whenever they want. You can decide not to list your ebook on Kindle Unlimited, which means you can then list it anywhere you want. So I recommend opt out of Kindle Select, but go ahead and publish your ebook on Kindle, and that way people can buy it. They just can't get access to it on the subscription program. The only other con I could find is if you opt into Amazon's extended distribution option, which again is optional, you will get lower royalty rates for the retailers that get their books from Amazon. So go ahead and opt out of Kindle Select, opt out of expanded distribution, and opt into everything else that KDP offers. It is a fantastic platform. Number 2 on my list is Google Play Books. And that might be a surprise to some people because you don't think of Google Play Books as being a big self-publishing platform. The reason I picked it as the second place you should self-publish your book is because if you publish on Google Play Books, you're much more likely to have your book found when people conduct Google searches. And Google is the #1 search platform in the world, so people are searching it every second of every day for a really wide variety of topics. If somebody searches a topic that's related to your book, you want them to find your book. So put your book on Google Play Books and you're more likely to be found when people are doing Google searches. 2 other advantages. One is it's free, and the other one is really good royalty rates. They also offer 70% royalty rates, which is the industry standard for royalty rates. Some of the cons are they do have a smaller customer base than KDP. Their customer base is growing as more and more people get Android devices. People who read books on those Android devices are more likely to go to Google Play Books so that they can find a book, hopefully your book, when they want to read a book. And then the other disadvantage is they only do ebooks. They don't do paperback books. Number 3 on the list is a big name. Barnes & Noble Press is a great place to self-publish, and they've made it a lot easier to publish your book there in the last few years. Some of the advantages are they do ebooks, paperbacks, and hardcover, which is unusual for a self-publishing company. They have a really user-friendly publishing site, and then it's free to publish there, and they also provide great royalty rates, 70% royalties on ebooks. Some of the cons are they do have a smaller customer base than Amazon, and their royalty rates are lower than KDP on paperback books. I'll show you how that impacts your royalty amount at the end of this video when I cover the royalty comparison. Number 4 on my list is Apple Books, and I included it on this list because it is becoming the go-to place for people who read books using Apple devices. So when somebody's looking for a book and they plan to read it on their iPad or their iPhone or their Mac computer, there's a good chance they'll go into the Apple Books app to find their next book. So you want to publish on Apple Books so your book will be listed on that app. It's free to publish there, and they also offer 70% royalty rates, as do all of the other retailers on this list, which is a great royalty rate. Some of the disadvantages are Apple still has a smaller customer base, but as more and more people get familiar with the Apple Books app, that customer base will grow. It is really tricky to publish your book. Where some of the other platforms I'm listed make it really easy for you to upload your book to their site, Apple Books is a little harder to navigate, especially if you're trying to upload your book from a non-Apple device. So if you have a PC computer or a Chromebook or some device other than an Apple device, it's tricky to publish your book on Apple Books. They only offer ebooks, so you can't publish a paperback or a hardcover book on Apple Books. Number 5 on this list is Kobo, and that might be a less familiar name to some of you. Kobo has a really good international distribution network. So if you want your book published internationally, Kobo's a great place to do it. They also have a really good partnership with Walmart. So as more and more people are using the Walmart app, if they're shopping for books on that app, you want your book to be published through Kobo. And it's also free to publish on Kobo, and they offer that high 70% royalty rate. Some of the cons of Kobo are, first of all, it does have a fairly small customer base, but as Walmart sells more and more ebooks, that customer base will grow. It's also ebook only. That's the list for the top 5 retail sites. So I recommend publish your book on each of those 5 retail sites. Most of them are very user-friendly. It's very easy to publish on their sites. Once you have your books up on those sites and you verified that they're available on those sites, then you can go to aggregators. And what aggregators will do is they'll get your book in broad distribution, but you'll get lower royalty rates for books that sell on other platforms. Number 6 on my list is my favorite aggregator for self-publishing, and that's Draft2Digital. Draft2Digital has expansive distribution to ebook retailers. So if you want to get your ebook distributed broadly, then publish on Draft2Digital. They have an excellent formatting tool. So if you want your ebook to look amazing, upload the file to Draft to Digital, use their online formatting tool, and it will create a fantastic looking ebook. And then they also have excellent customer service. Every time I've had a question, every time I've needed anything, I was able to get somebody from Draft to Digital to give me help very quickly and very effectively. It's also free to self-publish on Draft to Digital. There are two cons to publishing on Draft to Digital. The first one is you'll get a slightly lower royalty rate on any book that's sold through their distribution network. When you're selling directly to the retailer, you typically get 70% royalties on your ebooks. With Draft to Digital, you get 60% royalties. And that's because they take a 10% charge for distributing your book to the retailers. And then the second disadvantage is they're ebooks only. They don't publish paperback. They don't publish hardcover. And that brings us to number 7 on our list. Number 7 on our list is a place that a lot of self-published authors go to very early on in the process. And I put it on number 7 for a reason. And that's because the money you'll make on every book sold is going to be lower when you go with number 7, which is IngramSpark. The pros of publishing on IngramSpark are you can publish ebooks, you can publish paperbacks, and you can publish hardcovers. They also have very broad distribution internationally. So you can get global distribution on your book. Their distribution is especially good with paperbacks and hardcovers. The cons of going with IngramSpark, it's the only self-publishing platform on this list that charges you a publishing fee. So they have a $49 setup. So every time you publish a new book with them, it's going to cost you $49 to set that book up in their system. They also provide significantly lower royalty percentages, and I'll show that when I do the royalty comparison. And their customer service is really not good. Anytime I've had a question, anytime I've had an issue with uploading my book to their site, it's been really hard to get a hold of anybody. Now, as I promised, I'm going to explain how the royalties work for each of these platforms. I'm going to use an ebook as an example, and I'll use my most popular ebook that sells for $4.99. When you publish with the retailers, most of them will give you 70% royalties. So if your book price is $4.99, your royalty is likely to be about $3.49. Amazon's a little bit different. Amazon is the only one who charges a delivery fee for ebooks, and that delivery fee is based on how big the ebook file is. My ebooks are typically quite simple, so I get charged an extra 7 cents per book on a delivery fee. So it's not a big difference, but it would be nice if Amazon got rid of that delivery fee. The two aggregators have lower royalties. As I said with Draft to Digital, your royalties for their ebooks that they sell to retailers is going to be about 10% lower than the royalties for the books you sell directly through the retailers. And so instead of getting $3.49, I get $2.99. The big drop is on IngramSpark. IngramSpark has a much lower royalty percentage on ebooks than the other publishing platforms on this list. So when I sell an ebook through IngramSpark's distribution system, I make $1.99. So I'd much rather people buy my book through one of the retailer sites where I'm making $3.49 than through IngramSpark's distribution at $1.99. Now, paperbacks are a little more complicated because you have to factor in the price of printing and distributing the paperback books. And there are only 3 publishing platforms on my list that offer paperbacks. So let's go through those. For this comparison, I'm going to use my most popular book, which is about 250 pages. It's black and white only. There's no color in it. And it sells for $12.99 retail. When I sell one of those books on Amazon, my royalty payment is $4. And that's a pretty good royalty. The way they calculate it is they take the price of the book and they factor in the 60% that's my royalty rate. And then I have to pay the printing costs out of my royalty rate. So $4 a book, that's not bad. Barnes & Noble, I make less money on. And that's because their printing costs are a little bit higher and their royalty amount is a little bit lower. So I make about $3.15 per book on Barnes & Noble. And IngramSpark is a lot lower. And that's because not only do you have to pay the printing costs, but you have to pay IngramSpark's fees as well as the retailer fees. So you can see why it's better to be selling each book through Amazon or Barnes & Noble than it is through IngramSpark. That's my list of the top 7 self-publishing platforms, and that's the order I recommend you publish your book on those platforms. Your action steps are, first of all, publish your book on Amazon KDP, and then consider publishing on all of the other platforms beyond KDP. If this video has been useful to you, please subscribe to my channel. That way you'll see more videos like this. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I'm going to show you how to get useful information from my website. If you go to my site, selfpublishingfastlane.com, you should see a button that says download free checklist. And if you click on that button, it'll take you to a place where you can enter in your email, and I will send you a copy of my checklist. That checklist will show you all the steps that you'll need to know to write, refine, and publish your book. So check it out. Hopefully that checklist will help you. And best wishes as you write your book. I hope this helps, and I hope this gives you a better understanding of the best places to self-publish.